Today I'm putting together a 5x7 card for my sister using an old paper doily I've been saving for years. This is one of those little treasures you hang on to because you just know it'll be perfect for the right project. I'll be creating a large flower for the card front using a Simon Says stamp die and coloring it with Distress Watercolor Pencils. I'm pairing it with an embossed kraft card mat and some soft earthy colors to give it that warm vintage style that I love. Along the way, I'll show you how I layer the elements and pull the colors together so you can easily recreate this look with supplies you already have on hand. Hey everyone, it's Lean from coloradolean.com. Welcome back to the craft room. Let's start our project talking about our flowers and our leaf cluster. I'm going to be using the Simon Says stamp etched layered daisy, as well as this center branch from the Brass and Bliss Foliage Trio die set. I have already cut those out, and I'm using Strathmore Bristol Vellum surface for this. Let's go ahead and start coloring our flowers. For the petals, I'm going to be using the Distress Watercolor Pencil in Scattered Straw. And for the flower center, I'm going to be using Vintage Photo. And for today's project, I'm not going to be doing anything super fancy. I'm just going to do a basic color on here. So the first thing I want to do is lay down some color onto each petal. For this project, I'm just going to be using a water brush. Now I'm just going to smooth out this color. And while this layer dries, I will go ahead and color the petals on the top layer in the same fashion. Now, if you wanted, you could definitely stop here with one layer. However, I'm going to go back in and add a little deeper color towards the base of the petals. And to do that, I'm going to take my wet watercolor brush and I am going to just pick up some color off of the Distress Watercolor Pencil itself. So while I'm putting more color down at the base of each petal, I am flicking some of that color up. And I do that same technique when I'm using a Copic marker to just kind of add a little bit of interest to my flower petals. Now, if you find some areas are a little too dark or a little blotchy, go ahead and smooth that out. Add more color from your color pencil if you need to. And then I will set that layer aside to dry. For the inside of the flower, I'm going to use Vintage Photo. Now I don't have to do a whole lot of coloring here on the bottom layer, but just to make sure that no white paper is showing if I don't get this lined up, I am going to go ahead and put a line of color on the inside. And then I will go ahead and wash that color out. And again, I'm going to add some color in here. Now I am going to let this dry for just a few moments before I add more color to it. It is still pretty darn warm here in Colorado, so it did not take this flower center long to dry. And again, I'm going to get some color onto my water brush straight from the pencil, and then I will color that in. Now, I do want this to be nice and dark. And then I will set this aside to dry. I'm going to be coloring my leaves in the same fashion. The actual leaves will be forest moss. And then I'm going to very carefully use a little bit of ground espresso on the stems. Since I'm going to be coloring this the exact same way, I will go ahead and speed through this for you. Now that our petals have had a chance to dry, I am going to go in and just add a little bit more definition. I'm going to be using the Waffle Flower shader brushes. I have a size 0 for the flower center, and then I will be using the shader 2 for the petals. And all I'm going to do is just add a little bit of vintage photo just around the outer perimeter of the flower centers. And then I'm going to use scattered straw to go around the outside of the petals. And I'm just going to do that in the same way. Now you can't really tell on camera the difference with this, but in person, it's just a tiny little bit extra shading on there. So I'm going to go ahead and set these aside to completely dry, and we will come back and work on our card base. For our card base, I am using a piece of ivory cardstock. This is from the Coffee and Cream Paper Pack by Recollections. It is cut to 10 inches wide by 7 inches tall, and it is scored down the middle at 5 inches. So we will go ahead and get this folded. As I said in the beginning, I am using a piece of embossed kraft cardstock. This is from the Paper Studio Glossy and Craft Paper Pad. I got this on sale at Hobby Lobby for $5. And I'll just do a really quick flip through for you. There are some beautiful embossed designs on here. For today's project, I chose to use the pinstriped piece. I think that is going to be really pretty on this card. Now, what I really can't decide is if I want to use Distress ink on the edge of this cardstock or not. Let's go ahead and just kind of line this up, take a look at it, and see what we think. My flowers should be dry. I'm just going to take the one layer, since I don't have them together yet, and just do a kind of a rough layout to get an idea. I'm going to stamp my sentiment onto this scrap piece. I think I will put a little bit of vintage photo ink on the edge of this panel. it looks just a little bit plain. So I'm just going to use my foam blending tool. I think that looks good. I will bring my paper towel back in and just wipe the ink off of the edge of that embossing. Now, while that ink is drying, let's go ahead and glue our flower together. Now, I am trying some Barely Art Precision Glue today. I am completely out of art glitter glue, and I still have a month before the Stampin' Scrapbook Expo. So I had to do something. Actually, I went to a craft store in Longmont, Colorado called the Tilted Brick. I will go ahead and leave a link for them down in the description. It is a really fun craft store. I can hardly wait to go back. All right, so I have that on there. And then I will line up my flower. And press it down. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Barely Art Glue or not. This is the very first time I opened it. It does come with two different glue tips. It has I think they call this the thin tip, and then it has a precision tip. Now, what I find absolutely fascinating is it also comes with a cover. So when I'm all finished today, I'm going to take this precision tip out. I'm going to wash it, and I'm going to put this cap on my bottle. I think that is genius. But for now, I am going to put the pin back in the tip so that it doesn't dry out. And I will set my flower aside to dry. For my card sentiment, I'm going to use my favorite stamp set, the Stampabilities Card Phrases set. And I'm going to be using the Just Because. So I will bring in my Misty. And let's see, I need to figure out exactly how big to cut my sentiment strip. So I will bring in my card mat and my doily again. And I think I just want the sentiment right down here on the corner. So I think what I'm going to do is stamp it here on the edge, and then I can trim this excess part off. Okay, I have that lined up pretty well. And for my ink, I'm going to go ahead and use the Ranger Distress Archival ink in Ground Espresso. That will be a nice dark color, but it won't be black. All right, I will just do that one more time. And there is our sentiment. All right, let's start putting our card together. As always, I'm going to be using 1/4-inch score tape on my card mat. I'm going to bring in the Barely Art glue again to adhere the doily down. Now I want to leave a little bit of this without glue on it in case I want to tuck my sentiment up under it. So I'm going to hold this spot here and try not to put it down in the wrong location. And I'm not going to use a whole lot of glue on here. But I do want to get enough that the majority of it will stay down. Okay, and this is the corner I want here. There, that should be good enough. So I brought in my little 6-inch guillotine trimmer from Tim Holtz, and I'm going to trim up my sentiment just a little bit more. I did have to re-stamp this. There was, it looked like there was hair on the first one. So I'm going to line this up on the last embossed line. And I want to cut this at kind of an angle. So I'm just going to bring in a pencil and I'm just going to put a little tick mark where I want to start that angle cut. I really don't have a set angle in mind. I'm just going to cut it and see what it looks like. Okay, I think I like that. I am going to add a little bit of the Barely Art glue on here. And that will give me enough time to get this in the correct location. And I think I'll go ahead and do the floral arrangement kind of like that. Now I am putting a little dab of glue at the base of the top leaf because I do want that to stick down a little bit. And then I will clip off the end of this stem. I don't need that at all. And then for the flower, I'm just going to put glue in the center. And then hold that in place. And that's the finished card. I really enjoyed working with the Distress Watercolor Pencils on this project. They are so easy to use, and I love how soft and blendable the colors look on a die-cut flower like this. This old paper doily is such a special touch too. I honestly don't think you can find ones that are this detailed anymore, so I'm glad I finally gave it a home on this project. Paired with the ivory card base, the embossed craft mat, and these earthy watercolor tones, it all comes together into that soft vintage style I really love. Now I'm curious, do you have a supply you've been holding on to, just waiting for the right project? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, share it with a crafty friend, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you next time. Happy crafting!